to another episode of the Autonomy podcast, and this week I've got a guest online who is a current client of ours, Chloe. Now, I know Chloe from maybe 5-6 years ago. We trained in the gym together. I was one of her personal trainers while she was getting a body transformation, and the journey that she's been on to get to where she is right now is just an absolute phenomenal one. So I just want to share it. You know, it's one of those where it's a work in progress and it's still going on, but it's just an inspiring story to get to the point where she is right now, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that. So Chloe just came up with the podcast name already. So what's the podcast name?
It was the easiest 9 kilos ever.
There you go. And we're not talking about smuggling drugs or anything like that. We're talking about weight loss on the scales. So
that never happens to me. I'm telling you, it's amazing.
Yeah. So welcome to the podcast, Chloe. Really appreciate it. I wanted to kind of start this podcast with just how we met in the first place. So we're going to tell the story of how we met.
We met at a gym in London. I was keen on doing a 12-week plan, as always. You know me, quick fix, as quick as you can. And you weren't my trainer initially, but I trained with you a couple of times while I was there, and then we just became friends from that. That was 2015. That was ages ago. I was a baby back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then it's just kind of progressed from there.
Yeah. So when you did that 12-week transformation or the process, like what was like the main drivers of you wanting to get in shape for the first place?
Back then I think it was more of a toxic kind of relationship with training and food. I've had a toxic relationship with food and training from a really young age. I was dance background, all that kind of stuff. So my motivation back then was like, I need to get as thin as quickly as I can. But actually I didn't lose a lot of weight. My composition changed, but my weight never shifted ever. And I found that with a lot of those plans, I would always have composition change, but my weight would never really change that much.
Yeah. So like it was what relationship is with it now at the moment? How has that changed?
That's probably the biggest change. It's funny. I remember messaging you and being like, look, I want to do this. And I think initially that I got the answer was like, well, it's going to take a year. And I was like, oh, oh my God, that's such a big commitment. But also I think it's now change in my mind. I think the biggest shift for me is around food, and my relationship with exercise especially has changed. But food especially, I used to binge a lot and then restrict and binge and restrict. I haven't had a binge this whole time. I started in September, it's now Jan, and I haven't had a binge. And I give myself treats and I eat things that I want to eat. It's not about, oh no, I need to eat protein and veg for 3 months, and then, because that's that mentality, right? I can have a drink when I want. I can fit things into my calories, because I started out kind of following a meal plan, and then I have so many tummy issues that it didn't work. So we just said, look, hit a calorie count, hit a protein target, and your steps. That was like it, because I had a hip injury as well. So it started off with that, and I thought, tracking calories and my background with like eating disorder and stuff, I thought, this is going to be really tough. And then it's probably the easiest thing I've ever done. Like when I hand on my heart, like I've done everything, like 12-week plans, any diet you could think of. I started this when I was 12. Like I started, having disordered eating when I was 12. So I've tried everything. And, this is probably the longest I've been able to stick to anything, and I don't even have to stick to it. That's the best thing for me, I think, is that it is what it is, and I'm not hungry. I don't crave anything, and I give myself treats every day.
Yeah, I think that, and the pressure's off. It feels like the pressure's off. Like when I speak to you, we've had multiple conversations over the years as well, right? So about different things and whatnot. But there just seems like in this diet, there isn't that pressure on yourself to make that short-term change. And maybe that was because I was like, no, it's going to take you a year. Sit down.
Look, I'm so grateful for that though, because no matter how many 12-week plans you can do, I've always had the same outcome. So I'll, 12 weeks, you get kind of where you want to be. I wouldn't say that I've gotten to exactly where I've wanted to be with 12-week plans. And then you're good for a month, and then you're back to that habit that you've had before. And I honestly, I think with my background and everything, I really didn't know how to eat anymore. Like, I really struggled to figure out what was good. I never got results, so it was really frustrating. And then you do that effort moment, like, well, screw it, I've stuffed it now, I'm going to binge. And you just get into that pattern. And it's toxic. It's so toxic. And I got like that with exercise as well. Like, you know, I thought I had to be at the gym and I had to do all these things to be a certain way. I'm going to say it, I hate the gym. Like, I hate it. I don't go there unless I'm paying someone to like make sure that I get there and do the exercises. So it was about really changing my mindset. So finding something that I love doing that doesn't feel hard to do at all, and that I can do every day, and that I want to do every day. And we did that. And it's just been easy to do from the get-go. Yeah.
It's like,
sorry, I know I shouldn't say I hate the gym.
no, that's so powerful. Do you know how many conversations I have on a day-to-day basis with people that just don't like the gym, but then they wonder why they're not consistent? I'm like,
yeah,
I relate it back to, well, if I was going to stick pins in my eyes, do you think I'd want to do it every single day? You know,
exactly.
it's the same. And whatever reason that you hate it, obviously you can go into that and start looking at those kind of and resolving them. A lot of people are unconfident, or they don't like the weights area because there's lots of manly people there, or they just feel unconfident in the leggings, or whatever it is that there's a trigger for that. But we don't need to force you to do it, because you're never going to do it. It's like, if you don't like sprouts and then someone says eat sprouts 3 times a day, you're not going to do it. So
do you know how many times, like, you know, I had a trainer when I came back from London, I had a trainer here, and she gave me a bikini body workout.
I remember these conversations. I remember.
Yeah. And I said to her, I can't eat dairy. Like, I literally, I pass out from pain. Like, I've got the worst stomach. And she was like, look, just have your dairy, try it for a month. By the end of that month, I ended up in hospital with inflamed stomach lining. So like, I did it because I thought it was going to get me results. And she kind of had a go at me, being like, oh, people who are gluten-free and this and that, you're always overweight. I wasn't overweight, for one. And two, my body can't do it. That just shows the limitation in like her nutritional background. Yeah. And that was it for me. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to live my life being anxious around food, or not being able to go out with my family or my friends. That started to happen. Like, I would be like, oh, I panicked, and like not be able to do that. Now I know that I can, like, I know I have a plan for that day, like my calories, I know that I set that so I can have that at that time or something like that. And a goal was like initially to be like, okay, don't just eat health foods. One, didn't realize that health foods, I'm a bit of a like health food nut. Like, it goes the opposite way sometimes. You know too much, and you're like, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. But one, health foods are higher in calories, so no wonder I wasn't losing weight. And two, being okay with not having that bad and good list of food, that was something that I had to really get my head around initially. And those treats that I have every day are specifically put in there so that it's not a good or bad food, it's just food. It's either nutritionally good for you or it's not, and that's just the way it is. And I've never been so relaxed around food in my life. Yeah,
no, that's great. And I always relate it back to like finances as well, right? Because like, if we all had, like, let's say for example, £3,000 to spend, we don't all spend 3,000 on the great stuff for us, right? Like a Gucci bag doesn't give us this internal satisfaction, but it's fucking nice. And, and if that is a good balance between not going broke and eating beans on toast and buying a Gucci bag, which you shouldn't do, by the way, just for anyone listening to this, don't go broke on buying a Gucci bag. It's not going to be able to make you eat your protein and get rid of eternal happiness. But if you've got expenditure spare and you're like, well, I've got this over, why not let it be the things that you enjoy? As much as people that have struggled with their weight in the past always like demonize those health and bad foods, which means that when they enjoy these bad foods, they always think that it's negative. But actually, when you spin it and say you can have this daily, food is just food, and if 80% of your day is great, then the 20% can be whatever you want. And not everything in our body needs to be healthy, because we can't do that. Not everything we put on our skin is healthy. Not everything we hear is healthy. Not everything that we smell is healthy. So breathe. I was gonna say oxygen. You're around other people that BO. You don't smell everything good of sunshine and roses all day, do you?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just a way of getting that, like when you have that, can I swear?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, I do.
Cool. We have that fuck it moment. I used to do that because I ate carbs. Like it was brown rice that was a bad food for me. So now that I can have, and I love like having a wrap at lunch or having a bit of bread in the morning, things like that. And I feel like when I was carb free, I would binge so much worse, and I'd eat chocolate, but I wouldn't just eat chocolate. I'd eat like half to a full block to myself. I used to scare myself about how much I could actually put away.
Yeah.
But now that I feel like my body is getting what it needs, so I don't actually do those things anymore because I'm so balanced and well-rounded with my food.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been that's probably been the biggest change for me.
Yeah.
And it's only from September.
Yeah, I know that's huge as well. It takes, for some people it may take a long time, but I think what you did was implement that really, really nicely. And I think it just hit the spot with some of the things that you were struggling with, like that whole chocolate every day, or like the foods that you enjoy every single day, is one of those where it sounds illogical when someone presents it like, well, I'm gonna have chocolate every day, but then when you have it every day, you create less of a craving for it later. So then chocolate just becomes the same as a piece of bread, and then bread becomes the same as veggies. So it just becomes balanced in a nice way. And then you can choose whether you want it or not. And you can choose if that's something that you like. And, when you are opting for those healthy foods, sometimes you just don't enjoy them. And food is meant to be enjoyed because it does taste fucking good as well. So
and I come from like Italian, Croatian, Ukrainian family. All they talk about is food. And I'm the odd one. Like, everyone loves to eat, and I'm like scared of food. So I'm the odd one in my family. And now that I can like have a plate of pasta, or my nonna cooks and I can eat, that's actually been really nice as well, because I used to be like, oh, I'm missing out, like I can't have that gnocchi, or I can't have that pasta. And it's once a week we all meet as a family and we all have that big meal, and it's really nice to just not be so anxious around food and around those events. Christmas was a breeze. I actually dropped weight at Christmas, which was a shock because I thought, oh, here we go. But it was a breeze. It was so easy. And I remember when I first started training with that gym, that Christmas and New Year was my last one in London. I just had this thought actually while I was on my walk. It was the last time I was in London for New Year's. I was leaving to go back home, and I didn't even have a drink on New Year's. Like that 3 months, I literally stuck to protein, veg, and like killing myself in that gym, that pendulum and that sled. I wanted to kill you every time you put me on it. And I thought, how sad. Like, I didn't actually just take it in and like enjoy myself. Not that I'm a big drinker, but I didn't relax and like have fun because I had to be on my plan. And that was sad. That's sad. I would definitely want to go back and change that now.
And unfortunately, those the formation of those negative relationships and even just the method in which you do things will often have that impact. Like I absolutely love the fact that you are having that meal with your family. I think like family dynamics are one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, because they enjoy it and it makes you feel inclusive, especially like if you're let's say for example, if you're a big family person, which we know the Croats are and those type of people, the Italians are, they love the family aspect. But then as soon as you become like a little bit of an outsider, it makes it so much harder for you to then have those times. The anxiety kicks up, you feel not part of the group, which then doesn't feed into a healthy pattern of health thinking as well. So you're always thinking, oh, why am I missing out on these things? You subconsciously really want to enjoy it, you want to be with them. You're stuck in that bout of, oh, but if I do, then I don't get X, or I'm going to do X, which is it's always a predictive thinking as opposed to actually what will happen. And hopefully, I'm glad that you've been able to change that as well. So that's
I don't want to miss out on the good food. One thing I have noticed is, and like being an Italian you know, being European, olive oil. So that was the one thing that I had to change, because we use olive oil like it's water. And like, I think that was a big thing. And even my mum, like, I've kind of like been speaking to my mum about it, because we talk about like what we're doing and weight and stuff. And I was like, I have stopped, like the one thing that I stopped was olive oil, or I count it, and it's huge amounts of olive oil that we're using. Like, and that was one thing that I cut back. Like, it's such little tiny things, but they all add up to like this big picture. Even just steps, like I've really made steps my own time, like having your own time for that hour or whatever it is, playing the music that you want to listen to. And I don't answer the phone, I don't look at my phone, I just go. That's made such a big difference mentally as well. I think a lot of this stemmed from, I want to just be happy and want to be comfortable in myself 24/7. And I really didn't think that was a possibility back then. I really didn't. And I'm only really halfway through my journey, and I already feel that way.
That's great.
So it's definitely it's changing. And now I'm noticing my family being like, oh, like, what are you doing? Like, who's this trainer? I was like, you're gonna have a couple more clients.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that the whole, I'm so happy that you're in this position. Like, it just brings joy to me. Like, because obviously when you at that particular gym and those times as well, that you'd see a lot of people do the same things. So you'd keep track of them over the years when you'd work with them, and then you'd see them a few years later in their LinkedIn pictures be twice the size that they were, or like you see this negative feedback loop, and it just makes a heart sink, because like, you know, some of us got into the industry to help people and care, because we care so much. And it was like, it was so heartbreaking to see people have these relationships, and we just wanted to fix them. So I'm so glad that you're in that position.
This has been the best, and it's not even a plan. Like, I know now I can do this forever, because I've been tracking. I know what I can eat during the day. I know I can start, not that I'm eyeballing, I'm measuring everything, but I know what I have in a day. And usually it doesn't really change. I'm not super social at the minute anyway. So I have had social stuff where I've managed it and it's fine. But you start to really learn about how you're going to do that forever. And the fact that I haven't, like, I got into Pilates because obviously with my hip injury, and I had to have a cortisone injection in my hip and all this stuff, and that was basically November. So I had to go really easy with everything, and I still lost, you know, like that's crazy, going from those huge gym workouts where I'd like punish myself, and that's what it was. I think that's where the connection is with the gym, is like, I want to be thin. It's not about being strong or healthy or enjoying your time in the gym. It's about like this negative vibe that you get from like, I need to punish myself because I want to be thin. Now it's like I'm doing Pilates every day. And you know, I didn't realize how hard Pilates was. Like, I sweat so much. Like, I've never sweated so hard in my life, but it was really similar to dance. And because dance is my background, it was just so much easier for me, and I enjoy it. But I do it every day because I really get excited about getting on the mat and doing it, same as my walk. And I know that I can do that and keep that up long term. But I know if you pushed me into a gym in the last 3 months, I probably would have been like, nah, I'm out, see you later, I can't do this, because I'm not confident in the gym without someone there.
That's just your step. That's the stepping stones that you're going to go on as well. And I think probably what you'll find potentially when you get to that point where you are happy with the way that you look and you've kind of achieved that kind of goal, you will probably then be able to rechange and probably change that mentality that you have with the gym, because the goal will not be to get less fat or
growing the bunda back.
Yeah, it would be growing the bunda and having such a wonderful time doing that. And I think that will be the change. Because once you put yourself in a situation that you are loving yourself for what you have, then the relationship between that place isn't the same relationship. So that'd be huge.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to that point that you mentioned about the olive oil, which I think is a useful tip for most people. Is that, you know, I had a client in Dubai, and he's very much Arabs love the olive oil as well.
Yeah,
You know,
Middle Eastern
hummus and
culture.
olive oil, which is
Yeah,
fantastic. But like
it's so tasty.
we made I think I lost, it's so fantastic. We lost like 10 kilos in like 8 weeks, and the only change that I made was that I told him that olive oil was like high calories. He changed his game. He went from I said to him, how much olive oil do you have? And he just did this. That's the action that he
Yeah,
did. And I was like, okay, well, what I need you to do is do this. And then
yeah, yeah.
and then basically he lost loads of weight because of that. So
Yeah.
like, it's such a small thing that a lot of people don't think about, but when you know the traditions of the culture that you're in as well, you can then fight the battles. Like, you know, that's a big one. You know, Indians is the
Pasta.
extra carbohydrates, and Indians,
Yeah,
obviously the Italians is pasta and olive oil. It's like,
yeah,
knowing those and
yeah.
knowing how much you can have of it is really essential.
And it's the sizes of the portion sizes as well. Like, depending on who's serving you at my house, if it's my nonna, it's like a portion size for 3 people, for one, you know, like, so it's that kind of mentality. And like, even my dad is probably, he's a junk food addict. He doesn't put on weight, but he's just a junk food addict. So when I was home, I would be around that a lot of the time. And now, like, if I don't really buy that stuff, but if I want ice cream, I just have a little bit, but it fits in. And it's portion sizes, which now I realize what I was doing wrong back before you and this, and why I wasn't losing weight, because I was doing everything I could, but not getting anywhere. Even was at a gym, you know, it's like a group kind of fitness gym, and they give you like the meal plan and everything, and all these people like dropping like 8 kilos and 10 kilos, and here I am like working hard and sticking to everything, and I lost 2, maybe 4 kilos max. Like, it never went more than that. Now I get on scale, and the other day because I plateaued a little bit, and I couldn't get past a certain weight, and I managed to get past it. I looked at it, I was like, oh, like, cool. Like, it's actually, there's always little positive reinforcements as well that I find with this. It's not just about the weight in my body. That's kind of a byproduct of the mental side of things and the relationship with food and exercise. It's kind of just a bonus for me anyway.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And like, I just, on a separate question, how have you found like the coaching process with Deck, and like in terms of like the check-ins and stuff like that? How has that been for you in terms of the support that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, I can ask him anything, anytime. Like, and I feel like I can be really honest with him. Like, I had a bit of a mood dip over New Year's, and I was like, I'm sorry, but like, steps aren't going to happen this week. Like, I'm going to be at half pace. And he deals with it. Like, I'm not the easiest client, obviously, with my stomach stuff, hip injury, like all this stuff. I'm like, I'm sorry, difficult one. But there's always a solution, always. And it's always an understanding. It's funny going from that gym, and it was a different trainer, but I remember like in my first month or something, I had a bite of pizza, and he lost his shit, right? It was that old trainer in London. He lost his shit, the calipers came out, and I felt like shit, and I'd only had like a bite of pizza the whole month. And with this, it's like, I can be like, oh, I'm going out, and it's like, cool, let's look at the menu. Like, what do you want to do, and what do you want to eat, and are you going to do it this way? It's such a different process, but you feel supported in every aspect, whether it's a challenge mentally or physically, especially with my hip, because I wanted to start running, and I'm just not a runner. Like, I think I mentally wanted to be a runner for the wrong reasons. I think I wanted to be like one of those people that could run. I'm not going to be a runner, not with my hips and with like ballet injuries and stuff. But yeah, he's been great, and I've literally feel like I can say anything and it's not going to be judged. It's just, there's a solution and like a logical thought process, because you can spin out sometimes. Like, I felt, you know, I can get a bit spirally with food and stuff, so in the beginning, but yeah. And if I feel like, you know, I think I said to him over Christmas, oh, you know, after Christmas, can we drop calories? Because I feel like I'm starting to like settle, and he was like, yeah, cool. And we did it. And now it starts to like, move past a plateau, and we're working together. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think like key is that you're working together as opposed to it being like a one-way ticket, which is something that I've experienced before as well. So like there's always that, but it's a collaborative effort, right? If you've got 50% in the stake and I've got 50% in the stake, then there needs to be 50-50. But as soon as it becomes a dictatorship, then it becomes not a pleasant experience for either side either. So I think if the long journey is the process and the ideal, then you're going to need to have a 50-50 in it anyway, because you're going to have things come up and want to deal with it in different ways than the coach might want to. But then being able to come up with a compromise or a mid-ground is really, really important.
Yeah, and you get the best out of your client because you're listening to them and you're understanding them. I mean, I've seen injuries happen. I've seen, my mom got an injury from the group fitness gym. She had a really bad knee, and they're like, oh, come on, you can do it. Like thinking she's slacking off, but no, she's not. She's actually got an injury, and she actually made it worse, and now she can't train at all. So and that's how like he definitely coached me with my hip especially, and he was like, look, we're going to drip feed training in, and it's been such a slow process that I've kind of just fallen in love with it. And it's not like going, because I'm a 0 to 100 kind of person as well. I was like, right, I've got my cortisone injection, let's go. And he was like, wait, hold up. No, because then you might be out for another 6 weeks, can't have that. So it's just been a whole other process. And I've fallen in love with training again. And I can't go a day without doing something.
That's great. That's so fantastic. And I think that's a really good way to sign off the podcast. So like, I'm so grateful for where you're at right now. And I'm so happy that you're there. Seeing you from all the way back in the day, 5 years ago. No, that's crazy.
I know. We met for a reason.
Yeah, there you go. So it's God's gift. That's what Nathan means anyway in some of the language. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, apparently that's what my mum tells me, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure. My mum, but my mum's I'm a mummy's boy anyway, so she'll tell me whatever, and I'll believe it. So,
just Google it. It.
I will do. All right. Well, thank you very much, Chloe. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for your help. Bye.
Bye.